As we gather here today, I'd like to talk to you about stereotypes and about underdogs. You know, every immigrant group that has come to the U.S. has had to endure some stereotyping and some harsh jokes. In our case, this actually goes back much further than our journey here, to the 16th century and our relationship with a certain southerly neighbor. Let me give you some examples. They say that the Scots are cheap. That reminds me, Reverend, if you could, after the speech, I'd like to be reimbursed for my parking. It's about $8. Thank you. They say that the Scots hold grudges. Now, that's not true. We all get on just fine, well, except with maybe the English, and on occasion some of the Irish, and we've been known to fight amongst ourselves. Okay, maybe there's some truth to that one, but I prefer to just think of it that we have really long memories. And oh yes, they say that the Scots are feisty and argumentative. Now that's just patently untrue. And anyone who disagrees with me can meet me behind the statue after the speech is finished, and we'll discuss it further. All right? Enough about the stereotypes. I'm getting my blood up. But here's the thing. Those stereotypes and those cliches belie another fact about us. The people love the Scots. They do. People the world over are smitten with Scotland. While some people take mean jabs at us in movies, in sitcoms, in cartoons, others take our photos, drink our scotch, collect our music and stories, and wear the dress of our ancestors. How many characters are given a Scottish accent to seem tougher or sexier? Who here among us does not think that Sean Connery and Gerard Butler are men's men? Tourism is a huge industry in the old country. And it's not just people tracing their familial roots. People love Scotland. So why is this? I submit that it's because everyone loves an underdog story. And the Scots are some of the greatest underdogs in history. Take the classic case of William Wallace. The movie Braveheart, flawed as it was only possible because in 1297, the real William Wallace stood against the might of England at Stirling Bridge. He had just over half the forces of the English, and they were much better armed. Wallace proved that he was a great guerrilla fighter, a man of his people, and a great leader. He overcame long odds to beat the English, which is the essence of an underdog. Just 17 years later at Bannockburn, an English army 3 times that of the Scots was decimated by the forces of Robert the Bruce, another scruffy around the edges underdog who rose from humble origins to become the rebel king. Jump forward a few hundred years and we see Scotland and England at war once again, despite being a united kingdom. The Jacobite uprisings of the 18th century proved that the Scots value self-determination above all. The high water mark came in 1745, when the ragtag army of Prince Charlie marched over 200 miles deep into England, 2/3 the way to London. Now, we all know that Prince Charlie didn't succeed, and most Scots would probably say that's just as well. Amen. But it's hard not to get choked up thinking about the determination and the valor of these men. Yes, they were stubborn, but in the best of ways and for the noblest of reasons: freedom and self-determination. While those military conflicts did not end well for Scotland, the Scottish spirit would continue to soar. You can't keep an underdog down. Victory on the battlefield proved less important than victory in economics, cultural influence. Scottish industry was a huge force behind the rise of the British Empire. Scottish grit helped to build America as we know it. Without the Scots' pioneering spirit, ingenuity, and tenacity, America would not be the world power that we are today. The modern world was born in Scotland through free trade sentiments and the strong individualism of entrepreneurs who valued education and self-reliance. By the 19th century, Scotland had a flourishing financial system which contributed significantly to the world economy. Scotland's greatest export was ideas. The Scottish intellectual movement sought to understand the natural world and the human mind across a broad spectrum of ideas: philosophy, science, engineering, technology, poetry, history, and economics. Figures like Robert Burns, David Hume, Adam Smith, Sir Walter Scott, to name but a few, are still celebrated for their achievements today. Bear in mind, ideas championed by these men were radical and unpopular in their day. Underdog ideas. So in the span of just 100 years, the English, who had once and used Scottish culture, were lauding it as a jewel in Queen Victoria's crown. I could go on, but you get the idea. So who's really won? It's the underdog. Why? Tenacity. Where others see stubbornness, I see tenacity and grit. By sticking to core values, working hard, by trusting their own strengths, the Scots made the world a better place and became a source of inspiration for millions. Anyone who lives here in Philadelphia knows the importance of patience and faith in yourself. That's what makes eagles fly, right? We all we got. We all we need. Now, as the owner of a kilt company, people ask me, is there really a market for Scottish culture and kilts in America? Absolutely. People love Scotland, and they're passionate about their family heritage. When I first started the company back in 2003, I'll never forget my father's words of encouragement to me on learning that his firstborn son was about to open a kilt business. Son, don't buy too much inventory. I guess you could say that a guy with mostly German heritage in his mid-20s, with zero sewing experience and no business background, may not be necessarily the best business ownership for a kilt company. But that's okay. I had Scottish tenacity, and I love being an underdog. One last stereotype I'll touch on: the Scottish sense of loyalty to family. Yes, this has led to a few feuds over the centuries, but today the ancient clan structure has allowed the Scots to connect with their heritage with greater ease than ever. What other global diaspora can boast the kind of connectedness that we have? Clan societies have used the internet to connect members on every continent. And more importantly, they've allowed families to teach their children about who they are and about where they came from, about the good times as well as the bad. It is crucial that we teach our children what it is to be an underdog, to have humble roots but lofty ideals, to understand how delicate victory can be, to use that chip on your shoulder to drive forward and never give up, that the long game belongs to those with patience and faith in themselves, and yes, stubbornness. So here's the stubborn Scots. History, tenacious people, history's underdogs. Thank you.
Yes, that's actually not
right, try the line again so you can get it on recording. How's it supposed to go?
I forget now.
I forget now. That's not the line. That's not the line. No. It's something about underdogs, isn't it?
Yes. Here's to the Scots. No, here's to the stubborn Scots. The tenacious people. History's
I can't put it down.
Fantastic.
That's how it should have been. It's the alternate ending.